Greetings, YouTube. It's April Fool's today, and I pray that you don't get pranked. Today I'm going to review Jeremiah Johnson with Robert Redford. And this is quite possibly my second favorite Western. Though in many ways I think it just barely qualifies as a Western. It isn't the classic story of cowboys and Indians. It's the story of a mountain man set sometime in the 1830s. It's not really sure when. I've never been able to pin it down. It's the story of a man who wants to forget his past. So he goes out to the Rocky Mountains, gets himself the equipment that he needs, a couple of horses, heads off to go find beaver pelt, bear, deer, things like that. And it's a simple story. It starts out quiet. A double-hulled canoe being pulled down the river. Our main character gets off, and then the narrator starts. And I think it was the narrator telling the story of Jeremiah Johnson that really sold this movie to me the first time I saw it. And I saw it a long time ago. This was released in 1972, and I remember seeing it when I was a kid. I don't think I saw it in a theater. I think I saw it on television years later. But I fell in love with it the first time I saw it. Now, Jeremiah Johnson is a fictional character. However, he is based on the actual person, John Johnston. Now, John Johnston wasn't a particularly nice man. He was a violent individual, and he was very much into revenge. In the film, Jeremiah Johnson finds himself caught in a feud with the Crow Nation. Not necessarily because he wants to. In real life, John Johnston had a great grudge against the Crow Nation because they murdered his wife, who was pregnant at the time. And he sought revenge against them. And he went out of his way to do this. He did not do it alone. He got people to join him, sometimes other mountain men, sometimes Flathead Indians. And he was a killer, plain and simple. And he had a nickname, Liver Eatin' Johnston, because he would cut out the livers of the men he murdered and take a bite as a sign of utter and absolute disrespect to the person he's killed. He was also a cannibal. I know of at least one instance where he escaped from authorities, killing someone in the process, and took their leg with him as provisions. He was not a nice man. The character in this movie is much more pleasant. And I would have to say that I don't believe this movie could be made in the 21st century. First of all, it would be difficult to get the scenery is shot as beautifully. A lot of this was actually in Robert Redford's backyard. And I mean backyard, I mean literally like on the land that he owns. It was shot over many different locations, over in a fairly tight schedule of time. And there's a quiet majesty to it. There are minutes and minutes where there's no sound except for what would have been captured or put in by Foley artists to give you the image of that quiet countryside. You can go long stretches of this film without anybody talking. No narration, no speaking, no nothing. The number of characters in the movie is fairly small, but every one of them is memorable. The relationships are allowed to evolve over time. There isn't a lot of just filler. There isn't a lot of just people gabbing at each other. There's not this mad cat need to fill that silence. It's allowed to be quiet. And I think that really improves the overall impact that this film has. And there's some great characters in here. He meets a guy named Bearclaw, who hunts grizzly bears for a living, who trains him, who teaches him, who gives him the knowledge he needs to survive. He encounters a crazy woman and ends up taking her son. He encounters numerous tribes of Indians, and they're treated with respect and as fully functional societies that he interacted with. both on friendly and on unfriendly terms. Um, he eventually gets himself a wife, and interestingly enough, the scene where he is married, they play a song, but there is no song for being married in that particular Native American culture, and the song they play is actually one played at funerals. I thought that was fairly entertaining. Um, but there's an authenticity to this with the equipment and with the technology that's displayed. And I know or knew someone that was into the Mountain Man reenactment hobby, and he would have loved this movie. I have no idea if he ever saw it. I'm assuming he did, because it was just wonderful from beginning to end. Uh, and there's a scene near the end where Jeremiah Johnson encounters his instructor. He bumps into Bear Claw once again up in the mountains. And at this point, he's been feuding with the Crow for who knows how long. He's living alone. He's got no contacts, no ties with anybody. And they share some food. And Jeremiah Johnson feeds his mentor. And with that action, he is now the provider. He is now the person bestowing that which you need to survive upon another. And the mantle is passed. He is now the legend, the Mountain Man, that will live forever. And as the film ends, and there's a little song that goes along with it, I will not sing it for you. I will spare you that. But the last line has haunted me from the first time I heard it till now. And it says that some say he's up there still. And that idea that the legend of a man can live forever, and that there will always be people who will point and say, yeah, up there, right up there. That's where Jeremiah Johnson is. That's the kind of thing that just sends chills down my spine. Interestingly, Robert Redford was actually a pallbearer for John Johnston when his corpse was moved to a final resting place. So there actually is a connection between the actor that played Jeremiah Johnson and the real man that the character was based upon. But I can't recommend this movie enough. I really think that the cover just in itself really gives you an image about this movie. It's just so austere. Just Johnson standing there with nothing else around him. And I really think that is an indication that this film was allowed to be what it was without anyone trying to force it to be something else. Like I said, I don't think this movie could be made today. But I'm glad they made it in 72, because it's one of my favorites. And anybody out there that likes drama, as a Robert Redford fan, enjoys the West in general, or the Western genre, this is something you've got to see.